be today here, and I do want to welcome once again my dear friend Gordana, the President of North Macedonia, to Montenegro. We just had a bilateral meeting, spoke about our bilateral ties, obviously, which are excellent, but also about the prospects of our two countries when it comes to the EU accession. You know that Montenegro has been perceived as a front runner among all the 10 candidate countries for the EU accession. And the main pitch, the main goal that we have is to become the 28th member state of the EU by 2028. I think that the game changer on behalf of the European countries happened following the Russian war in Ukraine. When also the EU understood how the enlargement policy was very much connected to security of the European continent. And that moment also opened a window of opportunity for Montenegro, but also for all the other candidate countries to speed up the accession process. Whenever I discuss the accession of Montenegro with the European leaders, I always, whenever they say that we are a front runner, I always say that we are tired of front running, because we are front running now for almost 15 years.
Quite some time.
Obviously, there are two reasons for that. The first one was a lack of interest on behalf of the EU for some time to have new member states inside the EU. While the other factor, a very important one, was also a genuine lack of Montenegro to pursue reforms. We all thought that following the change of the government in 2020, that things would change, and they indeed changed. Because Montenegro, for a while, was indeed a country whose institutions, predominantly those within the judiciary, were captured. Instead of, a number of people, and this is something that is being very clear now, who were in those institutions supposed to fight organized crime and corruption, were actually part of organized crime and corruption. And this is something that definitely now has changed, especially when it comes to judiciary. This is also what opened up a new speed for Montenegro's EU accession. However, this was a necessary requirement for Montenegro to deliver in terms of reforms for the rule of law, but not the only one that we need to do better. So in that regard, whenever I speak publicly about the speed of this government pursuing reforms, I always say it's very slow. It's very slow given the potential. We are a small country, we are a small society where the speed of reforms could be happening much faster if there was a political will for it. I see that there is a clearer, better political will than what used to be the case, but still not the optimal one, which this country is able to have. This is why I believe that, as what you have asked, that the last progress report was a good one, but I believe that so far closing only 4 chapters was inadequate. The plan was to close almost 20 chapters over the last 2.5 years, and the country has closed only 4. So this is why we need to speed up and to do things even faster, and to really genuinely pursue reforms in the future time even more. So this is I'm an optimist still that we can make it, not only because of us, but also because of this momentum which now exists from the side of the EU, that Montenegro can indeed be a role model, a so-called success story for also the others to follow. And this is how I see the process. The first time I met my dear friend, it was in, was it in Skopje or in Ohrid? In Skopje. And I have asked, genuinely, a question about the constitutional change of North Macedonia. And I got probably a 45 minutes lecture in Macedonian, which basically I did not understand at all. Maybe 70% of it I did not understand. Gordana is a professor of constitutional law. So but unfortunately, Gordana, dear friend, now the president, it seems that the game of the EU accession is a political and geopolitical game rather than a game of constitutional law. So going back to what's going on and by the way, let's all remind ourselves, it's not that the European Commission decides on the accession, but the member states. The member states of the EU, those 27 hands in the Council, are decision makers. Commission is a technical body. You know, I know that our administration is spending a lot of time discussing with the Commission, which is obviously a necessary thing because it's ultimately about aligning laws and standards. But at the end of the day, it's a political decision by the member states. So going back now to what's going on in Montenegro, all our countries have certain unique things about themselves, and I'm afraid that unfortunately the way that the political structure of our government and the way that the decisions within Montenegro are now being made is actually moving the country from its civic character to rather an example of the one that we have now in North Macedonia or the one that we have perhaps in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is more of inter-ethnic dialogue, collaboration, compromise, decision-making processes, which I believe is a wrong turn for Montenegro. The only way Montenegro can be a successful country is if we basically keep our civic character. Where Montenegro is not a country of Montenegrin Serbs, Albanians, Bosniaks, Muslims, Croats, Romas, but a country of citizens of Montenegro who can be whatever they want, ethnically speaking. So this is what is a crucial factor for Montenegro's democratic and economic development, and I ultimately also believe a crucial factor for our final successful story when it comes to the EU accession. On the institutions of Montenegro, you remember that I have previously said, let's face it, a number of our judicial institutions in the past were basically captured by the political parties. And even not by political parties only, but even some parts of the criminal structures. Think of prosecution, special prosecution, Supreme Court, not to mention different examples within the lower court system, police department. So hopefully we have moved from that stage. However, what I'm seeing now is still a need of political parties that are currently in power to basically have the same modus operandi, and to keep institutions that are supposed to be independent, including the Constitutional Court, under the political and the influence of a political party. And I believe that's wrong. And I believe that's not helping Montenegro along our democratic development. Having said all of this, I do want to emphasize one thing. Despite all the buzzes that we have them in our everyday politics, when you actually hear the problems from our neighborhood, some of those being mentioned from the president of North Macedonia, then you can imagine why Brussels wants Montenegro to progress even faster. And sometimes I even come to a conclusion that our progress is more related to the willingness of Brussels that we progress rather than our own willingness to pursue reforms, which I believe is a problematic thing. But ultimately, regardless of everything what is going on, as I previously said, I'm still an optimist that Montenegro could indeed be this successful story of change, of new political culture, that I'm very much hopeful I'm also representing in this country. A successful story of reforms that have been put in place, and a successful story that the EU could also show as an example to the other candidate countries that at this stage are a bit more complicated from the political point of view than what Montenegro is.